Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining again. I can see we still have some people joining the call, but to let you know, this meeting is going to be recorded and we're going to save time at the end for questions and answers. So if you don't mind muting your microphones during the meeting, and if you have any questions, please send them in the chat and we'll save time at the end to answer all of your questions. So we're going to have some opening remarks from our CEO, Kim Gabrielli of UN Global Compact Norway.
Good morning, everyone. It is a special pleasure to welcome all of you today, because this is actually the start of one of the most ambitious programs ever seen in Norway, and you could be part of it. So this year, we are starting the work on the science-based targets, but very much more concrete than ever before. So my name is Kim Gabrielli. I think many of you already. I'm the CEO of UN Global Compact Norway since 2 years ago. A lot have happened in our short history in the Norwegian office. But what we do see is that there is an increasing need and appetite for all concrete actions and programs. So we are moving from high ambitions and this sort of rosy things that everybody say they're going to do, to actually do action. But at the same time, there's only 17 companies in Norway that have set or said that they will set science-based targets to the Science-Based Targets Initiative, which is obviously, just like there are 300 companies, members of the UN Global Compact in Norway, is also too little. I mean, there depend on how you count, but it's up to 200,000 companies in Norway, and only 300 of them are members of ours. But still, we are the largest network for sustainable business in Norway. So what we want to do today is to take you through science-based targets, which is, most of you already know it by now, but the point with the science-based targets is that you get your goals recognized as aligned with the Paris Agreement and to reduce the emissions in aligned with the 1.5 degrees goal. And you get that recognized from an external panel, if you want, of researchers. And there is no other mechanisms like this. Of course, there are individual certifications and companies that do this for companies, certifying it, but this is the largest initiatives by the UN. And we are in the UN Global Compact are doing this together with the CPD and the World Research Institute, as well as WWF. And as you may know, that there is also another science-based targets in line coming up on nature. And that's something we'll also come back to. Because what we are launching today is a 6 months accelerator to set your climate ambitions and get them aligned at the end with the science-based target initiatives. But this is just a small part of the puzzle when we are launching the most ambitious sustainability program in Norway in the autumn, with activities from the boardrooms and the whole way through the organization, down to the people that are working either on business ideas or on reporting. And we are very much looking forward to do this in the autumn, and we will give you more and more information. But this program is one of the most important building stones of that holistic program that we will get back to on a later stage. Before we get into the program now, I just want to remind you of that we have invited all of you to participate in Arendalsuka. We are giving members an opportunity. We have a location in the midst of the center where you can get a spot for including streaming, whatever you need. You have already gotten an email on that. Please reach out to us. We do it if you get enough participants or people that would like to have a slot. So far, we have 6 or 7 companies that have already said they would like to join in. So it looks like we will be doing this, and it will be a very central position in Arendal and a good opportunity that is more than half the price than other venues, because we want to keep the price low for our members. Our host today the moderator today is Alison Rattigan, who is our specialist on science-based targets on reporting, but above all, she's also the coordinator of the Climate Ambition Accelerator that we will come back to after we have heard from people that have already set their goals and know much more about the process than I do. And I'm also very proud to know that Agder Energi is going to ask their all the companies in their supply chain to actually set science-based targets. And that is the way forward, when we start to ask others to set the same goals that we are doing ourselves. So with those words, I give the floor back to you, Alison, and then you will take us through the program. And then see you later for the presentation of the Climate Ambition Accelerator. And you don't want to miss out on this, because I haven't found anything like it in Norway, and it's a very ambitious program over 6 months. So stay tuned.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim, for the good opening remarks. And thank you again to Elisa and Jan Atle for joining from CEMAsys and Agder Energi. I think we're really looking forward to hearing some of their insights on science-based targets. So our first speaker is going to be Elisa Walderhaug from CEMAsys. She has studied sustainable development and climate change in the US and Australia, and has been spending 8 years working with climate change and sustainability. And today she's the head of consulting at CEMAsys.com, which is one of the largest and fastest growing sustainability consultancies in Northern Europe. So they provide software solution and consulting services, and they're the only Nordic science-based target partner with the CDP. So they're helping companies set ambitious reduction targets and emission reduction plans. And Elisa and her team have a clear mission on contributing to a better future. And they've just recently gotten their own science-based target approved. So I'm looking forward to hearing from that as well. Okay, Elisa, so we're looking forward to your presentation. I'll give you the floor now.
Thank you, Alison and Kim. I'm honored to be here. So thanks for a good introduction. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here and show you my PowerPoint slides. Here. So today I'm going to talk about what it means to set a net zero science-based target. Net zero targets are very new, and the science-based target criteria are under development. They're going to be launched in the end of this year. The company that I work for, CEMAsys.com, have more than 400 active clients. More than 100 of these are listed companies, and they represent locations in more than 70 countries. We work 100% with sustainability, and about 60% of the time we use for climate change reporting and setting ambitious targets. We're part of the UN Global Compact family, as I would call it. We're a CDP accredited provider, and we've been that for 11 years. We've been a science-based target partner since the Paris Agreement was signed. Just recently, we became a Sustainable Apparel Coalition partner. We also contribute to companies setting climate neutral measures, reduction and offsets. We sell carbon credits. We have our own climate park, which I will come back to later in this presentation. And we're also a Miljöfyrtån, and we're very proud of that. CEMAsys was established in 2007, so we've been here for more than 13 years. And we specialize in climate change and sustainability consulting in the Nordic area. Additionally, we have our own system that we've developed ourselves with our clients. It consists of 4 modules. It includes carbon footprinting, all types of ESG reporting, and also recently we're developing a EU taxonomy reporting solution tool. We do energy reporting. We help with food waste, stakeholder analysis, all types of ESG surveys, and risk climate change risk, TCFD, anything you would include in the sustainability concept. When it comes to science-based targets, we've developed our own tool for creating low carbon transition plans. We believe that a major part of setting a target is actually reaching it and knowing how to reduce your emissions aligned with the 1.5 degree target. So this tool allows you to calculate your accumulated carbon budget. It measures your relative science-based target, and you could also measure your carbon intensity, or even use the COPRO, the carbon productivity measures, which is a part of the green growth contribution to our society. You can do benchmarking and set criteria based on the science-based target. So now I just want to go briefly into what the Science-Based Target Initiative is. As mentioned previously by Kim, it's a collaboration between CDP, UNGC, WRI, and the Worldwide Fund for Nature. More than 1,500 companies, about 1,500 companies have aligned with this already and set a science-based target aligned with the 1.5 degree target. There's also a new contribution, which is the commitment for business ambition for 1.5 degrees, which is connected to the net zero target. It all connects when it comes to methodologies and standards that we use for carbon footprinting. The science-based target directly cites back to the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, the IPCC, which we all use for scenario development on climate change. Additionally, we use, in 99% of the companies that we work for, we use the Greenhouse Gas Protocol as a standard for measuring emissions and managing it. So yeah, we could still use the tools that we're already using in this, this Science-Based Target Initiative. So what does net zero mean? And why does it matter? There's like a mindset going on right now that people think that net zero is something that allows you to do something else than reducing your emissions, but it is not. It's only additional. Reaching net zero means offsetting any CO2 emissions that you produce, and it's not the same as eliminating all greenhouse gases. It is more than that. It gives us an additional option, which most say today that we really need. It includes emissions that are yet to be reduced and that remain unfeasible to be eliminated. So for example, last month, the EIA changed their views on opening new areas and starting new searches for fossil fuel. And even they see that we have to do more. Not enough companies contribute today. So if you look at these pictures, a cow, a farmer who's looking out on his crops, and an Asian, actually a Chinese seafood market with Norwegian salmon offered to their customers. These are examples of what is extremely hard to mitigate today. We do not have technology on reducing these emissions, at least not cost-efficient measures to reduce it. So fresh salmon, for example, is sent daily to Asia, by fossil fuel airplanes. We work with more than 10 salmon aquaculture farming companies in Norway, and we see that it's extremely hard to reduce the transportation emissions that go abroad. So net zero is a contribution to helping these clients and these companies across the world to reduce emissions that are extremely hard to reduce today. So the agricultural sector meets the same challenges, and land use change is a large contributor, as well as production of food and natural emissions from cattle and cows. So what does net zero mean? Instead of just reducing emission, it entails removing human-made CO2 emissions from the atmosphere by planting trees or using carbon capture technologies, for example. It matters to do both. Reduce your emission in line with the 1.5 target and setting and offsetting your emission to hold off some of the worst climate change impacts that are irreversible. Just yesterday, there was in the newspaper VG, there was a note that said that Norway didn't reach our climate target, and it's called a scandal. So we're not doing enough today. So now I've been a little bit negative on all of this, so then I just want to show you what you actually can do. And I'm just going to switch my screen because I want to show you a video right now. Here. Let's go.
The major problem today is all the CO2 climate gases we have left in the atmosphere. And here is the solution: trees. The mangrove is a miracle tree, and this is the most efficient machine in capturing CO2 and store it in the ground. A mangrove tree mitigates 5 times more CO2 than other type of trees. One mangrove tree can produce oxygen for 4 people. It grows fast, it's easy to plant, and there is plenty of land to plant mangrove trees. From now on, we know we can move very fast. We can plant more than 1 billion trees within the next 10 years. It's like a miracle when the forest has been restored. Life is coming back. They produce food and shelter for small fish, so we get 50% more seafood in mangrove forest. And when people see that they earn more money from keeping the forest than to cutting down the trees, they will maintain it. And if we don't realize that nature is our future, we have no future. Action is needed immediately. Join us and help us to plant more trees.
Hi, this video shows a part of the solution. Trees are magnificent in that way that they capture CO2, and CEMAsys ourselves have planted 150,000 trees for our own company. And it is a part of the Torheiedal Climate Park. The process of building a park has been long, There's been 3 years of research and test planting, and there's actually a 93% survival rate of these mangrove trees. We include the social aspect of ESG in it, and especially women empowerment has been on our agenda. And it's also a verified carbon standard by Verra. In addition to this, there's a established mangrove theme park with this mangrove species. It focuses on biodiversity and a wide variety of species. Both plants and animals have come back to this area, and it's a protection of seagrass, coral reefs, and endangered sea turtles. So it contributes to food, to fisheries, and we create more than 100 jobs in aquaculture and on the fish fleet. There's also some bee honey production in the park. A pretty amazing project that is, and you can read more about it on their website. So now I want to talk a little bit about the statistics in Norway. Norwegian companies are somewhat involved in this. 17 are committed, and 10 of these have gotten their targets approved. Among them, Agder Energi, which Atle will talk about after me. When it comes to the commitment to net zero, it's not finished yet, but 6 companies have committed to setting it when the criteria are ready. I added a couple of examples from the clients that we work for. The first example is Orkla, which has gotten their science-based target aligned with the 1.5 degree target approved, and they have committed to setting a net zero target. Inger Johanne Eikeland says that we urgently need to find solutions to climate change. That's why we are now taking action in every part of our value chain to reduce emissions in line with the level considered necessary. They have measured their emissions since CEMAsys started together with us in our tools, and they have reduced their emission through renewable energy and target action measures, and reduced their emission with 63% from their own production. 29% of this reduction comes from their value chain. Examples of what Orkla do is represented here in their products. It includes using raw materials and also changing from meat to more vegetarian alternatives for customers. They also focus a lot on packaging, and they got a couple of prizes for their packaging today and have reduced their packaging enormously the last years.
Okay, 1 minute, Elisa.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
My second example is Grieg Seafood. We just launched together with Fuel Maritime a reporting that it's a measure on each of their location, a sensor that sends their data through the system and over to CEMAsys.com, which gives us a very good measure of all of their emissions. In addition to this, they have focused on their transportation and their fish feed, and talk with all their suppliers on how to reduce emissions from these larger areas of their contribution to climate change today. They also changed the way they transport their salmon. Usually a box consists of 20 kilos, and 4 of those kilos are usually ice. they use new technology to cool down the salmon so that they could actually reduce all of that ice in each box, and you transport less waste through their ice. Okay, so you can read more about the criteria for setting science-based target in my presentation. Alison is going to share it with you after this, but you can set a science-based target from 5 to 15 years ahead of time, and these are the minimum criteria for reducing emission based on how many years ahead you'd like to set your target. The net zero target includes both emission reduction measures. You need to include scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 in your reduction. And you also need to mitigate all of your emissions from your base year until your target year. Then new criteria are on the way, and they are not ready yet, so we do not know all of the details. But it sets the stage for front runners when it comes to both reducing and offsetting. And the Financial Times says that the Science-Based Target climate campaign starts to bear fruits already, and we see that 25% has been reduced in since the Paris Agreement was signed for these companies that have set ambitious science-based targets. So thank you so much. And these are some of our clients, and I'm really looking forward to this new project that you're doing. So back to you, Alison. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Elisa. That was really great to hear your presentation. Really interesting to see what some of the other companies are doing with their targets and what you're doing with the mangroves. So as Elisa mentioned, our next speaker is going to be from Agder Energi. We'll hear from Jan Atle. So to give you some background, Agder Energi is involved in all stages of the value chain for renewable energy, from electricity generation and management through grid operation to electricity retailing. They have 900 employees, and they're a knowledge economy business with highly skilled technical teams headquartered in Kristiansand. And their mission is to provide clean energy for a sustainable society. And their strategy is focused on how the world can move towards more renewable energy and green value creation. So for Jan Atle Liodden, he's currently working as a senior advisor for sustainability in the Agder Energi group. And he's been working for 12 years in Agder Energi, focusing on helping business reduce their carbon footprint by switching from fossil to renewables. And he holds a master in environmental science and master of business administration. And he's passionate about letting customer demand and market forces work for an increased pace in the urgently needed reductions of carbon emissions. So we're looking forward to hearing from you, Jan Atle. We'll let you share your presentation now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you so much for inviting me to present at this webinar. And thank you, Elisa. It was very interesting to see your presentation as well. I'm really happy to see that so many people are participating today to explore more about the science-based targets. I just want to follow a little bit up on my passion for the market. I will just try to share my screen. Let's see. Just a minute, and then we'll be on the right slide. Just a minute, it was a bit. Mhm.
Yep, it looks great. We
Yeah,
can see
just getting back to the start, sorry, was that it had jumped a little bit.
Yes,
Okay, yeah, my passion for letting the market demand do its job. I used to work, I started my career 20 years ago. I worked with life cycle assessments for environment. And then for all the products I did, it was always the energy that was doing the main contribution to the emissions. At that time, I didn't know, but for sure, 70% of all global emissions comes from energy. And when I started in Agder, it's been very nice to kind of help companies to change from fossil to renewables. And also in around 20, science-based target was started in 2015, but around 2018, you could really see how this kind of market-driven thing started to also increase demand for renewables. And that, in a way, it leads to more renewables, and it leads to lower cost of renewables, so that renewables can actually outcompete fossil fuels. And today I will talk a bit about how we have worked on the science-based target and give share some of our experience. We have been a part of Agder Energi has been part of Global Compact since 2014, and a couple of years ago, 2019, we had a process both on company level but also on the corporate level to find out which of the goals which is important to us, and we found these 6 goals. We are in the process of revising now. Probably we have matured a little bit on how we see this, but for sure, goal number 13 is very crucial for us. So that will something we will continue to work on. I won't go all the way through this, but just to show you that we have my company is not only about production. We have production, mostly hydropower. We have something that is growing a lot, which is management of renewable assets. That's both in the Nordics and in Europe to manage renewable, mainly wind power. And we have a distribution company delivering power in our region in Agder. And we also have customers. And that's one company called Los, which is supplying to private customers, private households. We also have Entelios, which is a big player in the business market, providing energy solutions for the business market. So we have our vision to provide clean energy for a sustainable future, for a sustainable society now and in the future. And that's probably a bit why we want to work with the science-based target. We want to be credible. So we want to show that we are committed to do our share of the reduction. We also want to build internal culture. I think that's a very important thing. I also think we are very eager to avoid the risk of being accused for greenwashing. We are working so much with renewables and telling the story about our products. It's important to have a credible thing that we are actually doing something ourselves, and this is giving credibility and avoid greenwashing. And of course, we also want to inspire our customers and our suppliers, and to try to do this to help accelerate the green transition. On the top here, you can see the different steps for the process. I will talk mostly. We have the commitment. You have to develop the goals, which Elisa talked about. Then you have to submit them and then communicate and disclose. I will mainly talk about probably the development of the goals. It actually started all the way back in September 2018. Our CEO at that time signed this letter. And then we had 2 years from this until we had to do our submission. I started in this position taking over the greenhouse gas accounting in 2019 and had to do some adjustments to be according to the greenhouse gas protocol, which is kind of a gold standard for how to do greenhouse gas calculations. I'm not sponsored by CEMAsys, but we pay the full price, just to be clear. But we implemented a tool in 2019. We had a run through of all the suppliers in the market, and we decided to go for CEMAsys and use that. And there are 2 reasons why I suggest having a tool. That's maybe 3. first of all, you don't want to spend all the time updating emission factors and having this in spreadsheets as we used to do. It takes a lot of time and it's not useful. It's better to let someone else do that. Another thing is actually to have a good graphical display of all the results, so we can really look into easily when you go talk to people about different measures, you can easily show their emissions and have a good graphical display. It makes things easier. And also it's very good to have someone who do some consistency check of your things. So you get a consistency check of what you're doing. After that, we had to find our ambition. I think it was quite obvious that we went for the 1.5 degree, then we have to reduce 4.2% per year. And further on the process until approval, you see up here, you can see the different steps in science-based target, where the first is an initial screening. You have a lead reviewer that do a desk review, then an approver, which checks that again. Then you have target validation team discussing, and then you have decision and feedback. But what we did was first we chose baseline year, and because we had best available data of 2019, we chose that as our base year. For horizon, as you could be between 5 and 15 years, but we chose 2030 because that's quite common also in the public sector. So we didn't use this tool that Elisa talked about. We actually did it a bit more simple. We had kind of assumed a 5% linear reduction and decided to go for 50% reduction until 2030. We submitted our goals July 2020, but our scope 3 was not approved, and we had to resubmit. And as you see, our scope, there is a criteria. If the scope 3 is more than 40% of total emissions, they have to be included. So this is this is our emission in a baseline year. As I said, if something in scope 3 is more than 40% of the total, you need to have some kind of goal. For us, it's dam materials, which is concrete going into our hydropower dams. And we didn't really want to reduce that because we want to build more dams. And we also have the government forcing us to do some security updates and use concrete. So it was impossible for us to really reduce that. I'll come a bit back to that. But if you look here at the different things we have, so we have scope 1, we have a lot of transportation, driving around on the hydropower stations and so on in our own cars. We have stationary combustion, which is like peak load in a district heating system, where you use fossil fuel when an incineration station or someone falls out. And you have something that was a bit stunning to me. It was process emission, something called SF6 gas, which is kind of isolation for switchgear. And the gas is like 23,000 times more potent than CO2. So we don't have to have just small amounts. It's giving really big emissions. We are in the process now of reducing for transportation, going to electric cars, stationary combustion. We can go electric a bit more, and process emission, we just have to stop or you have to build in another way. For electricity, it says 225, but it's actually 0. We use energy attribute certificates, of course, from hydropower to reduce that, scope 2. And then in scope 3, we have business travel, which most companies do, and we have this dam materials, which was kind of the main thing. Then we did some changes then, and our goal was approved in February. And as you can see, it was absolute reduction in scope 1 and 2 by 50%. And we are committed that 82% of suppliers by emission on purchased goods and services will have science-based target by 2025. And we are in line with the 1.5. And as you see, the scope 3, as I said, we could not really commit. And then it was kind of science-based target that helped us and come up with this supplier engagement target instead. And we all the suppliers of concrete, which is kind of a big thing, what's cement for concrete, will have to have science-based target by 2025. some more that wrap up our experience is like, we spent quite a long time. It took like 2 years from we committed to we had the submission. But that was basically, to be honest, when our CEO signed up, I don't think he really know what he signed up for, but it was quite a good thing. I was really happy when I started my position. I saw that he had signed that I could work with this. And then we had to adapt and so on and implement the IT tool and get things right. So if you have more things in place, it could be much, much quicker, but you cannot use the time to get things right and to get things implemented. And actually, the science-based target manual gives all required information. It is very helpful, and you can see all the different criteria there, but you really have to read it, and it's there. We also got very good help from science-based target staff. Very often quick response and very, very good, but I was probably not so wise to try to apply for something about outside this criteria, because then they spent quite a long time to evaluate if we could build dams, if that could be exempted from the criteria. But then we found another good solution. The help of this supplier engagement. So I think it's very important to include the whole organization for this, at least for Horizon for the project, and the level of ambition, and also guesstimates for different climate measures. And I also think, yeah, we heard Elisa now, consultants. I think it's good to use consultants to have advice, but I think it's also very important to have ownership of the whole thing and to have a kind of a view of how much you want to use a consultant and how much you want to do yourself. Because I think the more you do yourself in the company, the better ownership you have to do. And it's been very good to see that the concrete targets makes it so much easier to introduce various measures. We have, for instance, I talked about building new switching gear stations where you don't have this SF6 gas, and we have set goals on how to electrify our car fleet, and it's so much easier when you have this overall goal to look at. And it really creates engagement and innovation and proud employees. And everybody has to be a bit involved to see how to solve things.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah, that's fine. It's on my last slide. And it's also been very motivating to set supplier engagement targets. And by that, we hope to contribute to spreading knowledge about the science-based target in our value chain. So that was basically it. And then just a little bit at the end here, if you want to learn more from Kim, we had a nice talk some weeks ago about a bit about science-based target, maybe more about sustainability overall, why to do this. And we also get challenged by UN Global Compact and keep us responsible. And this is our COO telling that we want to be kept responsible for our science-based targets. So, thank you so much for your attention.
Great, thank you so much, Jan Atle. It's really interesting to hear how you set your targets, especially with the issues with scope 3. It's really good to hear how you solve that. So yes, we're gonna hear now from our CEO at UN Global Compact Norway, Kim Gabrielli, on the Global Climate Ambition Accelerator for Science-Based Targets. And he's been CEO for almost 2 years since the start of UN Global Compact Norway, and was previously Deputy Executive Director of UNICEF Norway, working with children's rights, policy, and business. So let me just share the screen. Okay, so we'll give it to you, Kim.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alison. I'm just going to take you then through a very short sort of summary of what the Climate Ambition Accelerator actually does or will be doing. And of course, as you have heard today, so far the science-based targets have been for the front runners. We have 17 companies in Norway that have either got the goals accepted or have sent in their goals, right? In Sweden, there's 60 to 70 companies, I think the last time I checked. So it's not many companies. And what we're going to do now is to give the opportunity to take part in a 6 months program to actually do this work, because it is not that easy. It shouldn't be that easy, right? It is a long process, and that's also why CEMAsys and Elisa is telling, there are consultancies that are supporting this process as well. And I think for us, this is you know, it's a highly ambitious program. It's, as I said, the most ambitious program you will find in Norway, but you will also find it in another 25 countries. So it's well tested. It's developed by our headquarters, adapted to the Nordic context, and we are working with all the partners, including the World Resources Institute that will do part of all the workshops. We are also adapting it to the different levels of size of the companies. So for the first time, there is now actually a track for SMEs, which in this case is companies with 500 or less employees. But the same models will apply for the two groups of companies. The first module, if you want, is what we can call introduction. It's called foundations in the program, but it's basically what is it really about, and how do you sort of, you know, how can you make sure that you have the foundation to go forward. Number two is how do you make it a business case internally. So how do you make sure that there is an internal buy-in, that there is an ownership, both in the lead, but also amongst your colleagues. And number three, of course, is what Jan Atle and Elisa have been talking about. How do you take it from intro to theory to implementation? So how do you make sure that you actually reduce the scope 1 and 2 emissions in your value chain, and then also, like Jan Atle said, the discussion on scope 3 emissions. How do you manage to get it done? Because we know there are too many that are setting ambitious goals that don't deliver. So these are the modules of the program. Like I said, we have learning tracks. One is the basic one, which is for SMEs. And then it's the more advanced one that goes even more deeper into net zero concepts and also the investors' agenda, because we know that this is something, the science-based targets, that will be becoming increasingly more on the investors' agenda. Some of the Norwegian, like Storebrand, for example, are already really onto this. And we see a development where science-based targets is not only for climate, but also for biodiversity and nature and other areas coming. So this is really, if you want to be at the forefront, this is a place to start. We offer this program now from August. The deadline is to register is the 1st of July, before the summer. It starts in August, and then it takes you through the modules from September until December. So very sort of logical way forward with the intro, ownership internally, and the implementation. Then, of course, the last question before we go into a short Q&A discussion here, and that is, how do you join? So for us, this is extremely important that we get filled up all the places we have. We have 40 places. There are many companies that have shown their interest before we even had the introduction today. So we are not, it will most likely be, it's the first person that, or the first company that register will get us a place. But we have decided to make this free for all participant members. So we have 2 member categories, right? We have participants and signatories. So all participants will get a 6-month program for free, with highly skilled people, both from the World Resource Institute, the global headquarters of UN Global Compact, and also the Nordic adapted module that we are applying together with our Nordic neighbors, of course. And those that are signatories will have a small fee, but still 20,000 NOK for a 6-month program is the cheapest you will ever find, I think, for such a quality program. So don't wait too long, because we are quite sure we will fill this up relatively quick. And the deadline is, as I said, the 1st of July, but we are onboarding companies as soon as possible when they register. So if you have questions about this, don't hesitate to ask questions now, or just ask us questions on the email you see on the screen, communication@globalcompact.no. If you're not yet a member, We are aware that sometimes the application process to become a member of the UN Global Compact could be long. So we have said that we will open the program also to non-members as long as you commit to apply for membership during the program. So it means basically within the next 9 months. So it will be possible. And please, but that you just take up the contact with Alison, me, myself, or Knut, if you know him as well, our CEO, and we will sort out how to do that in the proper manner, because this is a program for our members, and it's a free program for our participants. And it's important for us to give value back to our members and show, this is just one, as I said, to end there. This is just one component of the most ambitious sustainability program that will be launched in Norway this year. We will come back to many other components of that. We are also looking for sponsors for that program, and we'll send information about that, but we will launch that in September, October. And we really would like to know, this is just one program, but there will be several programs and accelerators to help your companies take the step to be the front runners of sustainability. So with those introduction to the Climate Ambition Accelerator itself, I think we have some time for Q&As, right, Alison?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Kim. That was a really good introduction to the program. And I'm really excited to see how it takes off and see a lot more companies start to set science-based targets in Norway. So for the question and answer, okay, so we have some questions on the program. So is a fee for one member in a signatory company or for several colleagues? The fee is for the entire company. And is the board program you have in this autumn a part of this? Yeah, I think Kim can answer this one.
So the board program is not a part of this, but there is, as you see, there is an internal ownership module, the number 2, but the board program that was mentioned now will be starting also in the autumn, and that is part of the holistic program I'm talking about, where we are having from the top a board program for boards. We have the program for this, setting the science-based targets. We are having setting up a network for recruitment companies to work on sustainability. We have another component on regional networks. We're having a pre-project in Agder for a regional network. We are doing a regional network in Møre og Romsdal. We are doing a regional network already going in the Arctic, so in the north of Norway. We are also in discussions in Vestland, and we are also in discussion in Viken. And many of these clarifications will come for the summer. So we don't have the whole setup yet, but we have a working title called Mission 2030, and we will invite all of you to join in. If you're interested to already know more about each of the components, feel free to reach out to me, but this is something we will be launching after the summer. And then the board program is just one of the components to make sure that we reach the company from the top and to the foundations of the company.
Thank you, Kim. And I see we have one more question about the program, which is that will it be launched in other countries soon? And yes, as you saw there, it will launch in 25 other countries, and in the Nordics, it will also launch this fall, the same time as us. So we're collaborating with Sweden, Denmark, Finland, the other Nordic countries, and in Sweden specifically, yes, you can also register with them for this fall. So I think maybe for some, we have 5 minutes left. It might be interesting to hear a bit from Elisa and Jan Atle on how many people within your organization were responsible for the process of setting science-based targets, because I know it's a long process and can be a lot of work. So how many people do you think need to be managing a project like this?
Maybe I can start. Yeah, it's you have to involve everyone actually in a way, but you don't have to be that many. You have to have a group. With this in our company, we have something called sustainable ambassadors, like from all the companies sitting together, and they kind of discuss these kind of things. So we have representation from all the various companies. But I think when it's come to ambition level, for sure, it's very important to have the management level involved as well to find out what ambition level you want to set and so on. And also we have to have all the specialists. For us, it was a lot to do with this, actually this scope 3, this concrete, and you really have to have the specialist on concrete to be involved as well to see how much could we actually do there. So I think you need to involve everyone, but you don't have to have a very big group, but it would be nice. And to be honest, I did a lot on myself, and I think this program we are launching is really good because I spent too much time reading this science-based target manual, but if you can learn from others and to get some advice from you, it will make this process much quicker. So.
That's great, thanks. And Elisa, how about you? How many people did you have working with science-based targets for your own target?
Our own target, we launched this year with the new talented group of consultants that we hired. So it was their task to set up the emission reduction measures and also measuring our emissions throughout a value chain. So yeah, but when it comes to Grieg Seafood, which was one of my examples, we were up in the board and we were down to one location in Finnmark. So and we included suppliers of fish feed. They were also included in the Rainforest Foundation on how to reduce the soy emissions in their fish feed. So it's a lot of people needed to set this up, especially when it comes to getting the data and measuring emissions and knowing how to reduce them.
Right. Okay, well, I mean, it's good to hear that you involved your whole company from the board and to everyone in the organizations to get on board with the emissions reductions. I think that's very important. So we have just a couple minutes left, so I think we'll wrap up the meeting here. Thank you so much, Elisa, Jan, Atle, and Kim for joining the call. It was really great to hear from all of you. And we will be sharing the slides from everyone to everyone who has registered after the event and the recording as well. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions to our communication email, or you can contact me directly. I will be in touch. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.